What happens when one of Hollywood's biggest stars walks onto a late-night set and everything goes completely sideways? When the jokes stop landing, when the smiles fade, and when two massive personalities collide in front of millions of viewers. Tonight we're breaking down one of the most shocking moments in late-night television history. A moment that had audiences gasping, producers scrambling, and security called to the stage. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling me what you think really caused this explosion. Now let's dive in. The energy in the studio that night started off electric. John Cena walked out to thunderous applause, the crowd on their feet, cheering for the superstar who had conquered both wrestling rings and movie screens. Jimmy Kimmel stood up from behind his desk, that trademark grin plastered across his face as he extended his hand for a shake. Cena grabbed it firmly, waving to the audience with his other hand, soaking in the love from the crowd. Everything seemed normal, routine, even. Just another celebrity interview, on just another night of late-night television. But within minutes, the temperature in that room would change entirely. Jimmy started with the usual pleasantries, thanking Cena for coming on the show, making a quick joke about his muscles, getting an easy laugh from the audience. Cena smiled, nodded along, gave the expected responses. Then Jimmy transitioned into his first real question, and this is where things started to shift. He brought up Cena's recent comments in another interview about the state of entertainment, about authenticity, about performers who he felt were phoning it in for a paycheck. Jimmy's tone was light, playful even, but there was an edge to it. So John, you've been pretty vocal lately about people in this industry who aren't being real with their audience. Tell me, when you look around Hollywood, when you do these press tours and sit on these couches, do you ever feel like you're surrounded by a bunch of phonies? The audience laughed. It seemed like a softball question, an opportunity for Cena to make a joke, maybe throw some shade at an easy target, and move on. But Cena didn't laugh. He shifted in his seat, his jaw tightening slightly, and he looked directly at Jimmy. You know what, Jimmy? I think that's an interesting way to phrase that question. Because, yeah, I do think there's a lot of performance in this business that has nothing to do with what people see on screen. I think there are people who've built entire careers on being one thing in public and something completely different when the cameras aren't rolling. Jimmy's smile wavered for just a second. Well, sure, I mean, that's Hollywood, right? Everyone's got their persona. There's a difference between a persona and being fake, Cena said, his voice steady but pointed. A persona is a character you play. Being fake is pretending to care about things you don't care about, pretending to stand for things you don't stand for, all because it keeps you safe, keeps you popular, keeps the checks coming in. The audience had gone quiet. This wasn't the fun, lighthearted banter they were expecting. Jimmy let out a short laugh, but it sounded forced. Wow, okay, so you're coming out swinging tonight. Should I be worried? Are you talking about me? Are you worried, Jimmy? Cena leaned forward slightly. Because I didn't say I was talking about you. But if the shoe fits, you could feel the tension radiating through the studio. Producers in the control room were likely having a panic attack. This wasn't the script. This wasn't how these interviews were supposed to go. Jimmy tried to laugh it off, tried to steer back to safer ground. Come on, John, we're just having fun here. You know I've always been a fan of yours, always supported what you do. Have you though? Cena's eyes didn't leave Jimmy's face. Because I remember sitting in green rooms over the years, hearing stories about this show, about how guests get treated, about which celebrities you mock behind the scenes while smiling in their faces on camera. And I remember thinking, man, I hope I never become the guy who plays that game. Jimmy's face had gone from jovial host to something harder, something defensive. John, I don't know what you think you know, but this show has always been about having fun, about celebrating people. If you've got a problem with me, maybe you should have brought it up before you came on national television. Maybe you should have thought about that before you booked me and decided to take a shot at comments I made about integrity. Cena fired back. You wanted to make me the punchline. Jimmy, you wanted to sit there and play it cute, get your laughs. Make it seem like I'm some self-righteous guy who thinks he's better than everyone. But here's the thing. I don't think I'm better than everyone. I just think I'm better than people who fake it. The audience didn't know whether to gasp or applaud. Some people were laughing nervously, unsure if this was a bit or if they were witnessing something genuinely uncomfortable. Jimmy stood up from behind his desk, his hands spread in a gesture that was half defensive, half placating. All right, you know what, John? I think we need to take a breath here. This is getting a little heated and I don't think either of us wants this to turn into something ugly. Too late, Cena said, standing up as well. You started this the second you decided to frame that question the way you did. You knew what you were doing. You wanted to bait me, get me to say something controversial so you could have your viral moment. Well, congratulations. You got it. But you don't get to control the narrative. Jimmy's face had gone red. Whether from anger or embarrassment, it was hard to tell. You think I need to bait you for a viral moment? John, you're the one who came on here with an attitude. I asked you a legitimate question based on things you've said publicly. You asked it like a coward. Cena shot back, his voice rising. You wrapped it in humor so you could pretend you were just joking if I called you out. That's what people like you do. Jimmy, You hide behind comedy, behind the audience, behind the cameras, and you take shots at people while acting like you're everyone's friend. At least when I have a problem with someone, I say it to their face. You're saying it to my face right now, and you know what? I don't appreciate it. Jimmy stepped out from behind his desk completely now, moving closer to where Cena stood. You come on my show, you insult me, you insult how I do my job, and you act like you're some beacon of truth. Give me a break. Then let's talk truth, Cena said, his voice dropping lower, but somehow more intense. Let's talk about the guests you've had on this show who've told me they felt ambushed. Let's talk about the editors who cut interviews to make people look bad. Let's talk about how you position yourself as this lovable everyman while running a machine that chews people up for ratings. The studio had gone dead silent. This had escalated beyond uncomfortable into something that felt genuinely hostile. Jimmy's jaw was clenched, his eyes locked on Cena. You don't know what you're talking about, Jimmy said through gritted teeth. You're making accusations based on gossip and hearsay, and you're doing it on my stage, in front of my audience. If you have such a problem with how I run things, why did you agree to come on the show? Because I wanted to see if you'd be real for once, Cena replied. I wanted to see if you'd actually have a conversation instead of doing your usual shtick. But the second I pushed back even a little, you showed exactly who you are. You can't handle someone not playing along, can you, Jimmy? You need everyone to smile and nod and laugh at your jokes and make you look good. Get off my stage. Jimmy's voice had gone cold. Seriously, if that's how you feel, get off my stage. Cena didn't move. Make me. Those two words hung in the air like a challenge. Make me. The audience had gone from nervous laughter to complete stunned silence. You could hear people shifting in their seats, the uncomfortable energy spreading through the room like wildfire. Jimmy stared at Cena, his face a mixture of disbelief and rage. Security personnel near the stage had straightened up, alert, waiting for some signal about what to do next. You want to do this? Jimmy asked, his voice shaking slightly. You want to turn this into a circus? You're the ringmaster, Jimmy, you tell me. Cena crossed his arms, his stance solid, immovable. You built your career on making spectacles out of people. The difference is, most of them were too polite or too scared of the backlash to call you out. I'm not. Jimmy let out a bitter laugh. This is unbelievable. You know what your problem is, John? You think because you're this big action star, because you've got millions of fans, that you can come in here and disrespect me, disrespect my crew, disrespect this show. But you're not special. You're just another guest. Just another guest, Cena repeated, nodding slowly. Yeah, that's exactly how you see people, isn't it? Just guests, just content, just names on a booking sheet that help your ratings. You don't actually care about any of us. You care about what we can do for you. That is not true, Jimmy snapped. I've had thousands of guests on this show, and I've treated every single one of them with respect. What you're doing right now, this attack, it's based on nothing. You're making me out to be some villain because what? You heard some rumors. You decided I'm the enemy. I decided you're part of the problem, Cena said firmly. The problem with this industry, with this culture where everyone smiles and plays nice while stabbing each other in the back, where people like you get to sit in judgment of everyone else, make your little jokes, take your little shots, and nobody's allowed to push back because it's all just entertainment, right? It's all just fun. It is fun, Jimmy insisted, his voice rising. That's the whole point of this show. People tune in, to laugh, to escape, to see their favorite celebrities in a relaxed setting. You're the one who came in here and decided to make it something else. You're the one who turned this hostile. No, you turned it hostile the second you framed that question the way you did, Cena countered. You thought you were being clever, thought you'd get me to either backtrack or double down so you could mock me either way. That's your move, Jimmy. That's what you do. You set traps and then act innocent when people react. Jimmy shook his head, his hands balling into fists at his sides. You are so full of yourself. You think you've got me all figured out, like you're some expert on who I am and what I do. You don't know me, John. You don't know anything about me. I know enough, Cena said. I know you've been doing this for years. I know you're good at it, real good. You know exactly how to play the game, how to stay on top, how to make people love you while you do whatever it takes to keep your throne. And I know that the second someone challenges you, the second someone doesn't fall in line, you can't handle it. I can handle it just fine, Jimmy shot back. What I can't handle is someone coming on my show, accepting my hospitality, and then attacking me for no reason. You want to talk about phone? Look in the mirror, John. You've built a career, telling kids to never give up, to hustle and work hard, and meanwhile you're cutting deals, making compromises, doing exactly what the studios tell you to do. You're not some rebel. You're not some truth teller. You're an employee, just like everyone else. The words hit hard, and for a moment, Cena's expression flickered, but he recovered quickly, his voice steady when he responded. Yeah, I am an employee. I work within the system, but I don't pretend I'm not. I don't act like I'm above it all while participating in the worst parts of it. That's the difference between us. Jimmy, I own what I am. You hide behind jokes and that aw shucks persona while doing the same dirty work as everyone else. Get out, Jimmy said again, pointing toward the exit. I'm serious. John, get off my stage, get out of my studio. We're done here. We were done the second you asked that question, Cena replied. But sure, I'll leave. I'll walk out of here, and you can go back to doing what you do best, playing the victim. Telling your audience how some big mean guest came on and disrespected you. You'll get your sympathy, your viral clips, your outrage. You'll spin this whole thing so you come out looking like the good guy, because that's what you do. You don't get to tell me what I'm going to do, Jimmy said, his voice shaking with anger. You don't get to write my narrative. I'm not writing anything, Cena said. I'm just telling the truth. And the truth is, you can't handle being challenged. You can't handle someone not kissing the ring. So you kick them out, you shut them down, you make them the problem. But here's the thing, Jimmy, people are going to see this. They're going to watch this clip, and they're going to make up their own minds about who's real and who's not. Let them watch, Jimmy said coldly. Let them see you for what you are. A bully. A guy who came on here looking for a fight and then acted self-righteous when he got one. I didn't come here looking for a fight, Cena said, his voice dropping. I came here hoping for something different, hoping maybe you'd surprise me, but you proved exactly what I thought you were, and that's disappointing, Jimmy, because you had a chance here to be real, to have an actual conversation, but you couldn't do it. You had to protect your ego, protect your image. My ego? Jimmy's voice cracked slightly. You're standing here lecturing me about ego. You're John Cena. Your entire brand is built on ego. Everything you do, every move you make, it's calculated to make you look good. And now you're in my house, on my show, trying to tear me down so you can look like the hero. That's what this is really about, isn't it? You need to be the good guy. You need everyone to think you're some righteous warrior fighting against the phonies. Well, congratulations. You've made your point. You've had your moment. Now get out. Cena stared at him for a long moment. The two men locked in a silent battle of wills. The audience sat frozen, unsure if they should applaud, boo, or just sit in stunned silence. Finally, Cena spoke, his voice calm but firm. You want me gone? Then call security. Actually make them remove me, because I'm not walking out of here on my own, giving you that satisfaction. If you want me off this stage, you're going to have to force me off. And everyone here, everyone watching, is going to see exactly what kind of person you are. Jimmy's face went pale, then red again. His mouth opened and closed, searching for words. The cameras were still rolling, capturing every second of this disaster. The producers had to be losing their minds, trying to figure out if they should cut to commercial, if they should pull the plug, if they should intervene. But nobody moved. Everyone was paralyzed, watching this collision play out in real time. You're really going to do this, Jimmy said quietly, almost to himself. You're really going to make me the bad guy here. You made yourself the bad guy, Cena replied. I just stopped pretending not to notice. Jimmy turned away, running his hand through his hair, his shoulders tight with tension. When he turned back, his expression had changed. The anger was still there, but there was something else too, something harder to read. Resignation, maybe, or determination. Fine, he said. You want to play it this way? We'll play it this way. He looked off stage, toward where the producers and security were standing. Get him out of here, now. Security moved onto the stage. 3 large men in dark suits approaching cautiously. They had probably handled drunk audience members, overzealous fans, maybe even the occasional unruly guest. But this was different. This was John Cena, a man who had made a career out of his physical presence, standing his ground in the middle of a live television taping, refusing to budge. The lead security guard stopped a few feet away, looking uncertain about how to proceed. Sir, we need you to leave the stage, the guard said, his voice professional but tense. Cena didn't look at him. His eyes stayed locked on Jimmy. I'm having a conversation. We're not done talking. Yes, we are, Jimmy said sharply. We're absolutely done. You've said what you wanted to say. You've made your accusations. You've grandstanded for the cameras. You've tried to humiliate me on my own show. It's over. It's not over until we get to the real issue, Cena said, finally breaking eye contact with Jimmy to glance at the security guards. And the real issue is that you can't handle the truth. You've built this whole empire on being likable, on being funny, on being the guy everyone trusts. But when someone calls you on your behavior, when someone refuses to play your game, you shut it down. You silence them. I'm not silencing you, Jimmy protested, his voice rising again. You've been talking non-stop for the last 10 minutes. Everyone in this studio, everyone watching at home, they've heard every word you've said. How is that silencing you? Because now you're having me physically removed. Cena gestured to the security guards. You're making it look like I'm the problem, like I'm some unstable guest who needs to be escorted out. That's the silencing. Jimmy, you're framing this so that anything I say from this point forward gets dismissed because clearly, I'm the crazy one. Clearly, I'm the one who went too far. Jimmy laughed, but it was hollow. You did go too far. You came on this show and attacked me personally, based on nothing but gossip and your own inflated sense of moral superiority. What did you think was going to happen? That I was just going to sit here and take it? I thought maybe you'd defend yourself with the truth instead of with authority. Cena replied. I thought maybe you'd actually address what I'm saying instead of just kicking me out. But you can't, can you? Because if you actually engaged with what I'm saying, you'd have to admit that some of it is true. None of it is true, Jimmy said firmly. None of it. I treat my guests well. I run a professional show. I make jokes. Yeah, that's my job. But I don't ambush people. I don't set traps. I don't do any of the things you're accusing me of. You've created this narrative in your head based on who knows what, and you've decided I'm the villain. But I'm not. I'm just a guy trying to do a late-night show. You're just a guy, Cena repeated slowly. Yeah, that's the image you sell. Just a regular guy who happens to have a primetime show, who happens to have the power to make or break careers, who happens to control the narrative for millions of viewers every night. Just a guy. The security guards looked at each other, unsure whether to intervene further. The audience was still frozen, watching this play out like a car crash they couldn't look away from. Jimmy took a step closer to Cena, his voice dropping to something more personal, more intense. You know what, John? Maybe you're right about one thing. Maybe I do have power. Maybe I do have influence. And maybe that scares you. Maybe that's what this is really about. You're used to being the biggest guy in the room. Used to being the one everyone looks up to. And you can't stand that in this room. On this stage, I'm the one in control. That's what's really bothering you. Cena's jaw tightened. If you think this is about ego, about who's in control, then you've completely missed the point. This is about accountability. It's about the fact that you, and people like you, get to sit in judgment of everyone else while facing zero consequences for your own actions. You get to mock politicians, celebrities, regular people, whoever you want, and it's all fine because it's comedy. But the second someone turns that lens on you, suddenly it's disrespectful. Suddenly it's an attack. There's a difference between comedy and what you're doing, Jimmy said. Comedy punches up. What you're doing is just mean. Punches up, Cena scoffed. You think you're punching up? Jimmy, you're one of the most powerful people in entertainment. You punch whoever you want and call it punching up because it fits your narrative. And what are you? Jimmy shot back. You're a massive movie star, a cultural icon, someone with more money and influence than most people could ever dream of. Don't act like you're some outsider fighting the system. You are the system, just like me. The only difference is, I'm honest about it. Are you though? Cena pressed. Are you honest about it? Because from where I'm standing, you spend a lot of time pretending to be something you're not. Pretending to be humble, pretending to care about issues, pretending to be on the side of the little guy. Jimmy's hands were shaking now, whether from anger or something else. I build people up all the time. I give people opportunities. I give them a platform to promote their projects, to tell their stories, to connect with audiences. What have you done, John? What have you built besides your own brand? I've built a career on showing up, Cena said, on being there when people needed me, on doing the work, taking the hits, and not complaining about it. I've built a reputation for being reliable, for being real. And yeah, maybe that means I've made enemies. Maybe that means people like you don't like me because I won't just smile and play along. You want a medal for being so righteous, so authentic, Jimmy said sarcastically. Fine, you're authentic. John, you're authentically arrogant, authentically self-absorbed, and authentically convinced that you're better than everyone else. I wanted to hear you admit that you're not perfect, Cena said quietly. I wanted you to admit that maybe, just maybe, you've made mistakes. That maybe you've hurt people. That maybe this machine you run isn't as clean and friendly as you pretend it is. But you can't do that, can you? Why should I admit to things I haven't done? Jimmy demanded. Why should I confess to sins I'm not guilty of just to make you feel better? You came here with an agenda. John, you wanted this fight? You wanted this moment. Well, guess what? I'm not going to give you the satisfaction of breaking down and admitting you're right, because you're not right. Cena stared at him for a long moment, and something in his expression shifted. The intensity was still there, but there was something else too, something that looked almost like disappointment. You really believe that, don't you? You really think you're blameless in all this? I think I'm human, Jimmy said. I think I do my best every day, and sometimes I fall short, but I don't come into other people's houses and attack them for it. I don't pretend to be some moral authority. That's what you're doing, John, and it's ugly. The security guards had been standing there the entire time, waiting for some clear directive. The lead guard cleared his throat. Mr. Kimmel, what do you want us to do? Jimmy looked at Cena one more time, his expression unreadable. Escort him out. He's done here. Cena held up his hands. I'll walk myself out. I don't need an escort. He turned toward the audience, many of whom were still sitting in shocked silence. Thank you all for being here tonight. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes it needs to be said, even when it costs you something. He turned back to Jimmy. Good luck with the rest of your show. Jimmy, I hope one day you figure out who you really are underneath all the performance. I know exactly who I am, Jimmy said coldly. The question is, do you? Cena didn't answer. He simply walked off the stage, the audience parting slightly as he made his way toward the exit. The cameras followed him the entire way, capturing every step. When he disappeared through the curtain, Jimmy stood there alone on the stage, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The audience didn't know whether to applaud or stay silent. Jimmy walked back to his desk, sat down, and looked directly into the camera. His face was composed now, the professional mask sliding back into place. But you could still see the remnants of the confrontation in his eyes. "Well," he said, his voice slightly hoarse. "That was something. We'll be right back after this break." The cameras cut, but the moment was captured forever. The clash between John Cena and Jimmy Kimmel, a collision of egos, philosophies, and perspectives that revealed more about both men than any scripted interview ever could. What started as a routine late-night appearance had turned into one of the most talked-about moments in television history. If you made it this far, make sure you subscribe to the channel and drop a comment below. Here's my question for you. Do you think John Cena was justified in calling out Jimmy Kimmel, or did he cross the line? Let me know what you think.